Hi, Paul.
Hello, hello. How are you?
I'm great. You look so snazzy in your photo with your tuxedo on.
I know, and then here I am. I look like a thumb.
No, no, you look great in real life too. But I was very impressed by that tuxedo. We could have had you at our premiere last night. You would have fit right in.
Oh, that's amazing. Is it in LA?
No, New York.
Oh, okay, great. Well, that's a perfect place for a premiere. Perfect time of year. We're getting into the holidays. I think the tree might be up. So,
Tree is up.
all
Yes.
right. I love that. Well, how did everything go at the premiere?
It was extraordinary. You're never going to have a better audience because a lot of the people and they're rooting for you. But this movie is really an invitation to lean in and
Mhm.
wrestle with some big topics and some grown-up topics. And the amount of listening. And I've seen this movie a lot, but to be in a room with 250 people and they're all listening, you can feel them listening. It's beautiful. And
Yeah.
people dug the movie, so it's a nice feeling.
Well, it's a beautiful film, and plus, at this time, it's kind of interesting timing for it to come out. I mean, you've been working on this for years, but just right now when it's out, it's just got to be. It's just people even more right now.
You were sort of breaking up there. Your internet went a little choppy.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Uh, for the film coming out right about now, it's an interesting time for it to come out. You've been working on it for years, but now this just got to be an even more interesting conversation for people, right?
It's crazy how similar the storyline is to the current moment. Yes, it's nuts. And you're right. The filmmaker has no control over when it gets made and when it gets released. I have some say in between and during the making of the movie, but release date and um, all the money winding up in the bank was not in my hands. But there must have been a reason for this to come out now because it's sparking a lot of great conversation.
Yeah, that's great. Well, of course, every set there's special memories from it. Is there a certain day or scene or time where you're just looking around going, "I'm always going to remember this. This is how I pictured it."
What a great question. I don't think anybody's asked me that
Uh,
question. Well, for me, it's hard to top the fact that my son hit a home run in stickball in the Washington, D.C. scene. I wanted my kids to have the experience, but I was making a movie in Europe about Europeans,
mhm.
and I only had one scene in America. Well, I had Harlem, but only one scene in Washington, D.C. So I was like, son, his name's Dashel. I was like, Dashel, you got to make dad look good. We can't be out here all night with you swinging and missing. And on his first take, he crushed the ball and had his home
Yeah.
run. That was a very happy dad moment.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, you've been working on films that people love for years, and people look up to what you do, and they think, "See, that's what I want to do." And I think, especially with this one, what advice would you give to filmmakers that are coming up behind you that want to tell great stories?
I missed the end again. It got a little choppy. Just the end of the question.
Oh, what kind of advice would you give to other filmmakers that are coming up behind you that want to
Oh,
tell great
advice.
stories?
What kind of advice? Tell the truth. Tell the truth. The best advice I ever got was when I was 22. I was not a writer yet, but I wanted to be a writer. And there's an extraordinary novelist and thinker named Frederick Buechner, one of my favorites. And he had taught at Wheaton College briefly, so I got to know him. And at 22, I wrote him a letter. What's the job of the writer? Is it a job worth pursuing? And he said, yes, it's a difficult life. It's a lonely life, but there's one promise that you have to keep, and that's tell the truth. If you're writing a character of a soldier returning from war and he's lost his leg and he's at the local bar, when he opens his mouth, he better sound like himself. If you're writing a character of a young teenager in Thailand, when she opens her mouth, she better sound like herself. And if any of your characters wind up sounding like you, like wind up sounding like the writer, then you take a pencil and you cross out that line. And that's the template that I've used for the last 35 years.
Yeah. Well, and especially with this one, I mean, it's I'm embarrassed to say I didn't know as much about the story as I should have. So I think it's important to do justice to this person, right?
Yes, when you have a true story to tell, it's a sacred trust, especially when the person's not alive. So I I tried to honor the man. I wrote about the man that I found in his own writing.
Hmm.
This is really a study on what I would call my Bonhoeffer, the Bonhoeffer I found in what he wrote. So it was kind of a one-on-one conversation between the man and his writing and myself, and always protecting him, not hiding that he found things difficult. He despaired. He lost faith, but he always came through in the end. He always found the gift of courage back in his heart from the God that he loved. So this movie is it's not a puff piece. It shows every aspect of him, but I think it's really um, honoring
Hmm.
of Dietrich and a celebration of him.
Yeah. Well, and of course, Angel Studios seems that they're right. You know, there's a brand there that people know that they're going to get something that's touching. That, you know, we're probably going to cry, you know, and it's something that's going to give you something to think about. So, I mean, it seems like the perfect partnership for a film like this, right?
Yeah, I mean, Angel Studios was not something that I was aware of while I was making the movie, and while I was doing post,
Mm-hmm.
Sound of Freedom put them on the map, and it was an extraordinary timing again. So 2 days after I locked picture and locked sound on Bonhoeffer, I got a call from Angel. I never even showed this movie to any of the other studios because Angel came in and said, "We want it. Um, we love it, and we're going to get it out to the world. What do you think?" And it's been a blessing.
Wow, that's amazing. You know, my co-host is Drew Pearson, one of our great Dallas Cowboys, caught the Hail Mary, went in the Hall of Fame, and he
Uh,
wanted me to make sure I asked you your Hail Mary moment, the moment in your life or career you just had to go for it and it worked out for you. What do you suppose that was for you?
Drew Pearson. Oh my
Right.
goodness. He broke my heart so many times. I'm an Eagles fan. And at the,
Yes.
at the height of his career, he just crushed us every game. It's such a spectacular athlete. Wow.
Mm,
Please give him my best and tell him
absolutely.
he owes me an apology for making me so sad over time. Um, Hail
I will
Mary.
tell.
I would say the Hail Mary moment was getting my cinematographer. So my cinematographer is John Matheson. He's twice nominated for Oscars. He has Gladiator 2 coming out on the same day that he has my
Great movie.
movie coming out. And he's not someone that I thought I was in a position to hire. I was going to hire someone locally in Belgium where we were shooting. And, we had X amount of money. It was not a huge studio movie. And for some reason, I was not hiring a cinematographer. I
Mm,
was I was hesitant, and I'm never hesitant. And I was told, "You're out of time. You have to choose. We're shooting the movie. We can't
mhm.
shoot a movie with no one to shoot the movie."
Yeah.
So I still didn't pick anybody. And a day and a half later, at 11 o'clock at night, an email comes into production. It was forwarded to me, but it wasn't sent to me. And it was from John Matheson's agent. And it said, "Dear everyone, Mr. Matheson's motion picture for the fall is not going forward now. There's been some
Mm,
cast drop out or money drop out. He has not read the script of Bonhoeffer, but he's very interested in World War II. Is there any way you would consider him for the role of cinematographer?" This was sent to me just to look at 11 o'clock at night. Well, here comes my Hail Mary, Drew. I cut and pasted the email. I CC'd everybody that had been sent the email, and I put my name at the top. And I wrote to the agent, "Dear agent, I'm writing to say that I'm very sorry that we cannot consider Mr. Matheson for the job
mm,
because I am offering Mr. Matheson the job. And if you would be so kind as to meet me at a hotel in Brussels in 2 days, that would be wonderful."
mm.
And the production people woke up in the morning and they shouted at me. They're like, You can't do that. We don't know. He's probably triple our budget,
Yeah.
and he's going to want to bring all these people from England. It's impossible. You can't do that. And I should have said, well, it was a Hail Mary and it was completed
Yeah.
and it's a touchdown. So you can't tell me I can't do it because I did it. And then 2 days later, there was John Matheson sitting with me. And not only did he join our film and make it so visually stunning, but he cut his rate by
Mm.
66%
Wow.
to come work on this film.
Mm.
He didn't bring his team from England. He worked with the local gaffers and camera operators. He did everything to help us out. And so that truly was a Hail Mary that was completed and in many ways won the game.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And part of that is that success mindset. We talk about that on the show that you have to have, whether you're feeling it or not. As creative types, we're hard on ourselves. So what do you tell yourself that keeps you on the right path even when things are tough?
Well, for me, it's my spiritual life. For me, it's my relationship with God. I start the day and go all through the day praying and just trying to be a receiver of the fact that I am loved and that I'm on this earth to love and focus on doing that all the time and not thinking about, oh, how can my faith fit into this moment in life, but flipping the script and having it be, how can life find a little place in here amidst my faith? And the more I do that, the sweeter my life gets.
I love that. That's wonderful. Well, I think people may get something different out of this movie depending on who they are, what they believe in, and maybe people they know. But what are you hoping that people will take away from this one?
Many things. I want people to come back to the cinema. I think the cinema is such an important part of our communities. It draws people out of their homes. It gets them to restaurants. It gets them seeing and experiencing things with strangers, talking in the parking lot with a stranger after a great movie. It just brings people together, and we are so divided, and we're all hiding behind our castle walls, and we need to come back out and into the public square. And that's why I made a movie for people who love movies. That's why this movie is beautiful to look at and about something. And it's like a Chariots of Fire. It's like a kind of movie that studios used to make, but they don't make anymore. So
Mhm.
that's the first thing, that people would come out and experience this journey and this amazing man's story in the cinema. The second thing is, even though Dietrich's life was very difficult, and even though he often didn't want to go all the way to the end of his courage, every time he did, every time that he despaired, he got a jolt of hope. Every time he thought, am I doing the right thing? He got a jolt of faith. I want people to realize that, of course, we're going to despair. Of course, we're going to be upset. Of course, we're going to be wounded. This is what it is to be alive. But really, the definition of a life is how we respond on the other side of those wounds and how we respond when we are afraid, and choosing courage and leaning, certainly for me, what works for me is leaning on the God who I believe loves me and will give me that courage, is the way to be brave, to not talk oneself into it, but to find courage by asking for courage, by
Mhm.
finding help, by asking for help. The more we try to be tough enough, strong enough, tall enough, the more we realize that we never will be. And that becomes discouraging. And so people stop doing anything in life. They retreat. But I think if we find that we can stretch these capacities, that we can have a Hail Mary in our own life and do these unexpected and deeply brave things, then as Dietrich did, we become fully human. And I want people to walk out and say, you know what? I commit to attempting to be brave. I commit to living a larger and bigger life that's focused on others, that's focused on mercy and love and care. Because what we find is that we live for others. When we live to give, we wind up with so much more than we could ever handle. And open hands mean open hearts. And what can flow from an open hand is a gift given or a gift received. And what flows from the closed fists that we're currently throwing at each other is nothing but injury.
Mm.
So I would love the audience to walk out saying, today I choose open hands.
That's beautifully said. The perfect way to end the interview. I really, really appreciate your time. Really appreciate the movie. It's beautiful. We're going to tell everyone to go check it out. And I look forward to talking to you again soon. And I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you, Paul. Great questions. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll see you soon. Thank you for your time.